Hey guys, welcome back to Indie Game Hustle. My name is Charles, and we're going to continue with our menu. We're going to try to get this guy up and running and working as quickly as possible. So, what we want to do here is focus in on the buttons here. And so, what I'm going to do with this button is turn it into a prefab. Uh, let's see here. So, I want to walk. I want to go into world menu, and then what I want to go ahead and do is right click, and I'm going to go ahead and create a folder, I think called I don't know, called menus, maybe just menus, or main menu, or menu assets, or resources, something like that will probably be fine, whatever you want to name it. And inside this resources folder, maybe I'll go ahead and create a button, and we'll go from there. So we have this button here, and the reason I think I want to turn this into a prefab is because I want to duplicate this button. So for instance, I'm going to open up my canvas here, and inside this particular panel, right, we have the main menu, and that's this panel. And so what I want to do is take the button that's inside of this part here, and I want to turn it into a prefab. And before we do that, I want to think about how we're going to make the button work. So the idea is when the button is clicked with either the mouse or say like maybe even a controller, if we can get that working, it'll go to the next page, or it would execute, and it'll execute a trigger, and it will do some things for us. So let's go ahead and test this out together and see how this plays out, and just to see if this button is going to do what we need. So maybe the way that we can go about this, and I'm trying to think it through, is maybe I'm going to create an empty game object, right? Create an empty game object, and let me call this, I'm going to call this, I don't know, like triggers, right? And on inside this triggers, I want to create a few different things. So what I'll do is inside this trigger, I'll create another trigger, and this trigger is going to do something. So on button click is really what we want. So let me see if I already have an on button click trigger, custom UI, billboard, button. I don't have my on click button script here, I don't think. So let me go ahead and add that, and let me see, I believe that I have it on the hub already. Let me double check. And before I double check, I could have swore I did have it. Get current screen. Nope, I think I need to add it. So let's go to the hub. All right, so here on the hub, we have a on button click here, and this is I guess you can call it an action or a trigger that I created a while back. And basically just go ahead and download this, and I'm going to download it as well. I know I have it somewhere on my system, but right now I don't know exactly where it's at, so we're going to download it together. And so you want to save this into a scripts folder on your machine. Okay, so go ahead and do that. All right, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and put that on button click inside a scripts folder here. And all I did was dragged it from my folder that I have here inside my scripts folder, and we should be good to go there. And it looks like it's compiling. And then once it compiles, we have this here. All right, great. So now when I go to my trigger and change trigger, I'm going to type in on button click. That's actually, I'm going to hit X, and let's go to, is it custom UI? My igniters, UI, on button click. There we go. All right, great. So when you add this trigger to this, what we want to do now is put in the button that we want clicked. So the button in question is going to be inside this panel, inside the menu, and I'm going to move this button there. So I'm going to move it and put it there just like that. And so what I'm going to do is rename this to be like start. All right. And actually I'm going to name it start BTN, just for button, obviously. And then I'm going to go to the text, and I'm going to rename it. Actually, I'm not going to rename the text just yet. So let's leave it like that. All right. So now we have this trigger, and then we need an action. All right. So all we need to do is I'm going to do button, and we need an action. So this action, we can actually have it just go like load scene or something like that. Let's go ahead and do that. Load scene. And we'll just we would have to put a scene there. So I'm going to do like underscore base. All right, cool. And that's what that button will do. And just to check to see that that is working the way I intended to work, I'm going to go ahead and hide the rest of these panels, and I'm just going to hit play. And it should load our scene, our base scene that we had here. And it looks like it's going to load it. Did it load it? Yep. Looks like it loaded the scene just like it should. And of course, I'm not going to have it go to the base scene. We're going to create another scene and everything. I just wanted to make sure that everything was working properly. All right. So that's just for maybe the start game. And of course, I'm not going to do it this way, but ideally you would want to go into a scene. But what I want to do instead is when you click a certain button, so instead of say the start game, so maybe we want it to do something else. So I'm going to get rid of load scene. I want to set active. I want to use set active. And then I'm going to do another set active. So I'm going to copy this action and I'm going to hit paste. And so what we want to do here is take one of these settings, so one of these panels, and let's just say panels, this one. So I want to set active the settings menu, and I want to remove the main menu. And I did it backwards, but basically I want to make this true and then make this false. Make sense? Cool. So for instance, if I were to hit play, we have our main menu, hit button, and now we have settings. And as you can see here on the left side, it just simply turn one off and turn one on, right? And so we want to try to replicate that in all cases here. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and what I'm going to do is turn this to a trigger, and I'm going to call this start button trigger. And then I'm going to duplicate this and I'm going to call it something else. But before I do that, I want to organize a few things here, because what we have going on here is we have some triggers to set the position of our panels. So what I want to do is go to my canvas. I'm going to go to create empty, and I'm going to just call this all position. And then I'm going to take all these positions and I'm going to put them in here. And I just simply don't want that to affect anything right now, okay? And because that's all it is a trigger, okay? And then I'm going to do the same thing for the triggers in terms of the manager. It's kind of like a little manager, right? So I'm going to do create empty, and then I'm going to call it panel manager, maybe. Panel manager. And then I'm going to drop this inside here. So I'll bring this down as well. Okay, so now we have all position. Those are triggers. And then we have panel manager. And inside the panel manager, we'll have different triggers that do certain things for these buttons. Fair enough? All right, great. All right, so the next thing I want to do is take a look at the buttons. So inside this menu, as we can see, we have a button. And so what I want to do is go ahead and put in this resource folder this button here. So I'm going to move this button into this folder. And now it's blue because it's now a prefab. So now when I go to Control D, Control D, Control D, I have 4 buttons, right? And that's great. But what if I want to change the color of just one button? So instead of selecting each individual button, I would just kind of go into this button and say, well, I want the color to now be blue, right? Perfect. And so then I go back and now they're all blue. Now I don't want blue, We don't want any color because we don't know what this button is going to look like. It may not look like this at all. Sorry. Cool. Whoops. Let me go back. Button. Blue. White. All right, cool. All right, so we want to leave that just like that. All right, cool. And I'll just go ahead and bring these in like that. And again, this all may change later, but for now, this will work just fine. And as you can see, as we resize it, you know, it looks a certain way. So great. So now we have these buttons for this. Now it's funny though, because this button can be applied to, we can use this button in anything. So it's not just this menu. So all of our buttons are consistently the same, and that's good. So now that we've done that, what we can do now, we know that we want this one to be the start button. And so now for this button, we want to name this to be, say, load button, right? So that might be our load game button. And so also for this button, this can be our settings button. And this last button could be our quit button. Quit button. All right, great. All right, so that looks pretty good. We have all the buttons I think that we need. And in terms of credit, the credits idea, we could put that inside the settings. We could put it like in the corner here, kind of like credits or something like that. I'm not sure the best place to put it, but for now we can go ahead and actually just put that button. Let's see, if I were to just take this and drag it out, and then I'll move it inside of, not inside the menu, but just generally inside the main menu panel. So if it's here, what we could do is we can put this button in the corner, and it could just be like, I don't know, like a settings button or a credits button. So if you click it, you can actually just go to the settings like that. So, but I'm thinking now, let's not do that. I don't want to do that. There's a little bit of reason why, but for now I think let's just go ahead and do another button, and I'm just going to go ahead and do this. So we have a big old menu, and again, like I said, we can change this stuff later. All right, and then I'll just go ahead and actually change this button to be credits. And then the last button can be quit. All right, cool. All right, so we got some buttons. That's good. All right, great. So now that we have some buttons here, we want to have some triggers to go along with those buttons. Fair enough. So this button is going to be the action for the settings menu. And so what we want to do is make sure that this trigger is associated with the right button. So instead of the start button, we want this to be the settings button. So I move this here, right? Just like so. And then I also want to make sure that these are named. So I'm going to open up each one of these and change the text. So we're going to go start. We're going to go to load. We're going to go to settings. Credits. And this is going to be quit. Awesome. All right, great. All right, so we have those. Just trying to be as organized as possible. All right, so now we have that. So we have this start, and we're going to rename this trigger as well because this is the settings. So we're just going to call this settings. Right, and then so I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this trigger. And I'm going to rename this to be start. And then I'm going to move it up. And the reason is just so that it starts where it's supposed to start. It's going to be the same order that that one is in. And then I have the trigger here. So now I'm going to select the start button that's supposed to be associated with. Great. And then we have an action in here. And so we'll get to that here in a second. Let's see here. Let me just take a look in terms of the action. So for this one, we actually want to get rid of that. And we want to have a load scene for the start. All right. So what I'll do is a save a scene load, and we'll put in a temporary name. This won't be it, but temporary name. Perfect. All right, so that's what our start button is going to do. Now, ideally, I'm thinking it'd be kind of cool if, say, for instance, we hit the start button and it has a variable or something that checks to see if there's a save game already. So if, right, statement, if there's a save game, then bring up a menu that says, hey, there's a save game. Do you still want to continue to overwrite that game? If you hit yes, then you continue on and you overwritten whatever save game you had before. But if you say no, of course, you just need to load your previous game. Now, we don't have to do that right now. That might be something we can play with in the future. But for now, I just want to throw that out there. The way, start thinking of things like that could be kind of useful. All right, so we have our settings here. I'm going to duplicate this one and move it up. And I'm going to turn this one into a load. And like I said, I'm not even sure if we need a load screen, just because I really want to keep this, I guess, simple. Because like I played some platformers recently, and I think, generally speaking, I think you like start the game, but I don't remember seeing like any like save screen like you have like an RPG. It's like I don't remember seeing like an RPG type setup where you can select from your load save game and like slot 1, 2, and 3, right? I think I can probably do that, and I may consider it. So we'll look into it. We'll see how much extra work it may take to do it. But if not, then we'll go with something simple. But we'll see. All right. So I have this load here, and so I'm going to look at the trigger. Now we need to change the button, right? So it's this button now, the load button. All right, and then in terms of the action we want this trigger to take, it is going to be, let's see here, trigger on button click, action, and then we want it to do something, right? So when you click this button, we want the load screen to be active. So we need to take the panel, this load game menu, and put it here, and we need to disable the active main menu. Okay, cool. All right, great. So we have the load, we have the settings. Make sure those are set up right. Cool. And so the next thing I want to do is duplicate the settings, and the next one is going to be credit screen. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. Things can get a little repetitive here, but it's all important, I think, because like we're kind of just setting up like a foundation, and then we can build on it. I think is probably going to be the most consistent way to go about it. So, all right, so we have our credits. So I'm going to take this credits button and put it here. And then in terms of actions, of course, I want to take the settings and replace it with the credits. And then I'm going to move the credits one up, so I can just make sure it's in the same order. Just for, it doesn't have to be, but it's fine. All right, cool. And so now we have credits, and the last one is going to be the quit screen. So I'm going to do a duplicate, and I'm going to name this quit. And then for my trigger, of course, I want to make sure that the quit button is selected. So I'm going to take this button and put it there. And then for the action, of course, I want to take the menu that goes with that and put it here and deactivate the main menu. Great. All right. That is good. That is good. All right. So everything should be working. Now, we're not completely done yet, because if we were to go into one of these screens, we can't actually get back. And I'll just show you that. So I'll hit play. And if we hit the settings button, we have the settings menu. Great, right? But I can't go back at all. And if I hit the load button, I'm at the load but I can't go back. And so now we need to create a back button, okay? All right, so the next thing we'll do is create that back button. And for that, what I'll do is I'll minimize this, zoom out. I'm going to turn on the settings menu, and I'll just go here. And we're just gonna put a button here. And we already have a button, right? We have a prefab button, and it's called start, and that's fine. We'll just leave it there. And for this button, we want to put it inside of this particular panel. So what I'll do is, actually I'll put it inside this canvas, and then where else should I put it? Of course I could put it here, but I'm gonna put it inside this settings panel or menu. So I'll put it there and then put it there. So now it's in here. And so we just need to put this button somewhere that the player can click on. So chances are, I don't know exactly what this settings menu is going to look like yet, so that's up for discussion. But I'm going to move this button somewhere like this. So maybe in the event we have like all of our settings and things up here, naturally you'll probably be using like the mouse or keyboard or joystick, and it should go down, and it should go down into this button when needed. So I'll just go ahead and do this. Cool, and let me go ahead and minimize this text here. Okay. Yeah, I think I can go a little smaller than that. Let's go like 24 for now until we start really figuring out what's going on with this stuff. So, and cool. I think this will work. I'm not sure why I can't zoom in on that text, but that's fine, I guess, for now. All right, and so this button, I'm gonna go ahead and name it back. And I want to check on something because I don't know if I'm gonna delete this just for a second. Actually, I'm just gonna turn it off just for a second. And let me create a new button just for testing, really quick. All right, and then I'm gonna put it up here. And I'm gonna change the text to 32. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why that's doing that. I'm gonna delete this prefab button, and that's fine. We'll just use the same back button, and we'll just name it back, like so. All right, cool. All right, so this is what we're gonna do with this back button. We're gonna make this button special. So what we can probably do is have one trigger that controls all of the buttons. It'll be the same button everywhere. So I'm gonna name it back, just like so. All right, and then I'm gonna go in my panel manager, and I'm gonna create another trigger. I'm gonna do a duplicate, and we're just gonna name this back, like all back, and then I'm gonna just call it button, maybe. And I'll just get rid of this, something like that. And so what we want to do maybe with this trigger is when this button, so I'll just take this back and put it here. When this button is pressed, this is going to be kind of like a universal back, maybe. So what we can do is create multiple, and I don't know if this is going to work. It should work though. We're going to create multiple set inactives. And the goal here is to always make the main menu active. So I'm going to take this and move it up. We're going to make the main menu panel active, and then we're going to put all the other panels in here and set them to be inactive. So what I'll do is I'll take the settings menu, put it here. I'm going to take the load game menu, put it there. The credits menu, put it here. The quit menu, put it here. So we have our main menu, load, I'm sorry, we got two mains here. Let's see, main menu. So the load game menu should be gone. The settings menu should be gone. The credits menu, the quit menu. So when this button is pressed, it should work that way. All right, so we'll test it out here in a moment. Let me just go ahead and turn off settings. Cool, so we just have our main menu there. So if I hit, well, I didn't put the button everywhere, but let's just test to see if the settings work. All right, so I'll go to settings, back, settings, back, settings, back. Perfect. All right, cool. All right, so now all we need to do is I'm gonna turn the settings on, and I'm gonna take this back button and let's turn that into a prefab. Let's see if that works. All right, and so what I'll do is now in each one of these, I want to put this back button on that page. So let's see here. The position is -663.9, -303. I'm not going to remember that, but that's okay. That's fine, whatever. So what I'll do is go to here. I'm going to duplicate the back button because it's a prefab, and I'm going to take it and drop it here on the load game. And I'm just going to remove the name back, that one. And then I'm going to turn off the settings and see if the load game has it. Of course, it's in the wrong position. That's fine. Then I'm going to move it into a position that we want, somewhere on the long game screen. So we'll just put it there. And then I'll do the same thing for the other ones, right? So I'm going to duplicate that one, open that up, drag it in there, turn that guy off, turn this guy on. And so I'm just going to move this somewhere over here, just like so, and do the same thing. Cool. And so basically we're just creating our back button that should cover pretty much all of these locations. And that should work out pretty good. So I'll just drop that there. Go ahead and make that inactive, make this active. And then I have the back button here, and we just need to move it to the quit scene or quit area. There we go. Now, it's interesting, right? So this may not be the case here though. And I forgot because we have a question here, right? So actually I'm gonna delete this back button. I forgot all about that. We have a yes or no here. Yes or no, right? So yes means we're gonna quit the game. We're gonna have a trigger to quit. So let's go ahead and easily create that right now. So I'm gonna just go ahead and create another button, another trigger for this button here. I almost forgot. And I'm going to simply go and say, instead of all back, this is gonna be yes button. And I'm just gonna go quit game, right? That's gonna be the trigger. And then we're gonna go to the trigger. We're obviously gonna select this button for that trigger. So to make sure we have the right one, it's that one. So I wanna make sure I name it. It's gonna be called yes, okay? And then for this button, this is the no button. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say no. That's gonna be our back button, right? All right, cool. So yes, right? Trigger button, we're gonna go ahead and move this here. And then the action is not going to be what you think. We're going to get rid of all of this stuff here. And so I'm going to go doop, 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 doop. And then I'm going to go add action. We're going to go to application. And we're going to click on quit game. Perfect, right? And so that's just going to exit the game. And that's good. So we're going to do another trigger. We're going to duplicate this one. And instead of it being yes, obviously we're going to say no. This is going to be our back button. Back button, right? Back button. And that's just in this instance, so that's fine. So what I'll do is go ahead and hit trigger, and then I'll go ahead and move the no button here, right? And then the action is actually going to be the same set active that we had before. So I'm going to go set active, and I'm just going to make a bunch of these, and we're going to remake every single one of these. I'm sure there's a faster way to do it, or this is the quickest way right now. All of these will be inactive, and we're just going to make the main menu active. So I'm going to drag the main menu here into this. And then we're going to make sure that all of these are inactive. Now, technically for this particular button, we don't have to do that, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it anyway. It's not necessary, but that's what I'm going to do. So just to make sure everything is gone, right? Credits, quit, screen should be inactive as well. I think that's all the screens there. Great. All right. Well, boys and girls, I think that will be it. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and hit play and see what we got. So let me first turn off the quit game. And so we should only have the main menu start here. Awesome. All right, so we have our headers, title, subtitle, start, load, settings, credits, quit. Let's hit quit. Cool. Quit game? No. Boom. Credits. Oh, nice. Studio. Bam. We didn't do that one. So let's go back and deal with that. So which one was that? Credits. So let's go ahead and turn that one on. And something must be wrong in the trigger or the button here. Why didn't the credits? I must have not added credits to this trigger. That's all. So let's take a look at that. Is credits here? If you hit the back button, it should. Why didn't that show up? When you hit the back button for the credits, maybe the trigger is not the right one. Let's see here. I'll do that. And let me check to see that. And that should be working. So let's hit play again. I'm going to go ahead and hit the, let's see here. Turn this off, turn this on, hit play. And I'm pretty sure I'm missing some credits. Back. Oh, okay. Credits working. All right, cool. All right, settings, is that working? Settings not working. All right, let's double check that. And maybe we have to change something up. Let's see. So now let me take a look at the settings. Oh, I think I understand. Why is it doing that? That shouldn't be doing that. Let's see here. I think I understand though. Because that is a specific button. I thought maybe that would work. So maybe we have to have a button for each one or a trigger for each one. It's possible. I don't want to do it that way. Let's see here. All right, so now that's not working the way I'd hoped it to work. So what I'll do is go ahead and go to, where is my, all right, this is my back button. So what I might have to do is create, because that back button should technically take care of pretty much all of it, but because it's not the same button on each one, I guess that's the reason why. Because there should be no overrides either. And I'm gonna go back and see what's going on. One more check on that. Okay, so yeah, definitely not working. I think my logic is wrong. So what I'll do is change my perspective of this. And what I'll do is go ahead and turn on all the panels. So I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna go here. And so what I'm going to do for settings, load, and credits is I'm just gonna simply create a back button for each one. And I'm pretty sure that will work. So what I'll do is duplicate, and then I'm gonna take these two and move it up, and let's see if that works. So I'm gonna go in here, and then what I'll do is just call this the settings. And what I'll do is make sure that this trigger and this button is associated with the settings button. Okay, so that one should be good. And then I'll do the same thing for the load. So I'll get rid of this one, and then I'll go here and rename this one to be load. And you don't always get these things right the first time, right? Sometimes you got to figure it out, and we'll see if this works. And then I'll go to the credits, and then I'll rename this one as well. And what I'll do is this credits, right? And then I'll go to this trigger and move this button here. Cool. All right. So that should work. Let me go ahead and turn those off. Hopefully I did the right ones. Hit play and see how that works out. All right, cool. So quit works because that's not that. Credits, settings, load. All right, cool. So it looks like that's working fine. And then if we hit start, I think that was set to the underscore base scene. So that's pretty cool. That does work, and it does get us to another scene. Of course, we're going to change that out a little bit, but that's what that does. So that's working pretty good. All right. So we had to take a little detour, but that's okay. That's the whole point of this, is to kind of see how things are working. So we have our panel manager listed here. Again, we have our trigger, start, load, settings, credits, quit, and then we have the back buttons here, and then we have our yes and no. So we can kind of see what those are doing, and then we can adjust it as needed. These are the different panels. You have your main menu, you have your settings menu, load, credits, and quit game. Okay. So all of those things are working as they should be. Now, what I wanted to do is, say when the game starts, instead of coming straight to this scene, maybe we'll come to like a scene where it says start game. So I don't know if I have to do that. It's probably not necessary, but it'd be kind of cool to do it. But you know what? That is something that we can add later. So maybe that's how we will approach that. I think we can do something like that later on. Cool. All right, great. All right. So in terms of, let's see what else we can do. What else will be good for us to add? So far, everything seems to be working. We're able to get into the game. And so now maybe we just need to create an intro scene. So if we were thinking about this from a story perspective, right now we have it set where when you hit start, it goes into a scene. Now, ideally, when you start a game, it doesn't just go right into a scene where the players is ready to go with no context as to what the story is. So maybe we should go to a blank scene where we're going to start thinking about how's the story going to play out. So maybe we can have the game start, we hit start, and it goes to something like a cinematic, like maybe it can be drawings of the story. So are we going to animate everything? Maybe we can just do drawings. We can draw out the idea, and then after a few different, almost like a comic book, we can go from that, and then it goes into the main scene where our player starts the journey, right? So we can do something like that. So let's go to project. I'm going to go to world. I'm going to go to levels, and let's create another scene. What I'll do is go create scene, and let's name this intro. And that's it, like underscore intro, like keep it simple, underscore intro. And we're going to take this name underscore intro, copy it, and we're going to go to the trigger for start. And we're going to go to the actions for that, and we're going to simply replace it with this. Boom, just like that. All right, great. And so now we're just going to basically go from here to there, to that scene here, when we hit the start button. Okay. All right. Now, of course, we don't have any logic to check anything like save games or any of that stuff yet. Now we can think that through as well. We can go to the load game menu, and I'll go ahead and turn that on. And in the load game menu, we could do something like a couple buttons, and you'd be like load game 1, 2, and 3. And again, like I said, I'm not 100% sure if I want to do it that way. Just from a complexity perspective, it just really depends. But if you're making a simple platformer, then maybe we don't need to have this. But maybe you want to learn how to do it, right? So ideally, let's go ahead and I'm going to create something else here. I'm going to create some buttons. And I'm not going to put them you know what, I will put them in a panel. So I'm going to right click on the load game menu, and then I'm going to go to UI panel, and we're just going to go ahead and create a space here, just like this. And I'll put it kind of like our other menu, just like this. All right, cool. All right, and so in here, what we can do is put some load game stuff here. Like, where is it at? So this will be like the buttons, or like the loadouts. I don't know what you can call them, loadouts. And inside here, for now, I'm thinking we can do 3 buttons. So I'm just going to go ahead and do something simple like 3 buttons. And this button will be like this. And I'm going to duplicate that one. And duplicate that one. So I'm going to just kind of do it like this for now. All right, cool. And we can always actually add them to like the hierarchy, like the horizontal or vertical layout group. All you would have to do is actually just add the layout group here, as you can see, and it'll automatically do it. I don't want to do it right now, just for now, but just know that we can always add that later. So cool. All right, so we have these 3 buttons, and we can call this button load 1. And call this one button load 2. Button load 3. All right, cool. All right, and from top to bottom is 1, 2, and 3. And each one of these can basically be, I don't know, like information as to where we are in the game. So say you wanted to load a certain game save, so where you're at. So the next thing I'm thinking is I'm going to create a panel. Yeah, I'm going to, as much as I don't want to, what I think I'm going to do is now create panels within a panel. And you never really need to do this, but it really helps, I think, from like an organization perspective, to keep some elements together. So I'm going to put this panel here. And so I'm going to put that in there. And so really what I'm going to do is actually delete these and just duplicate the panel. Just like that. And so now we can do the same thing, I believe, with the panel if we were to do like a horizontal, a layout group. I think that would work. I haven't done it with panels yet, so we'll play with that later. But we also want to make sure that this doesn't stretch. I don't think so. I think that should be fine. Actually, I'm going to let it stretch in terms of the panel within this one, so that's fine. All right, cool. This one I'm not, though. I'm just going to leave that like that. All right, cool. And so we have this panel and this panel, and just to do a third one, we'll do a third one. If you guys like that or not. All right, cool. So maybe this can be useful for someone, even if I don't necessarily think I'm going to need that. It could be cool to have it. All right, cool. So we have 3 areas. Now, to take it even another step forward, this would be a button for you to click and you would load it out. and then you can have some information in here. So for instance, I probably should have did this before I created all this, but say for instance, I have some UI and I have some text, and I'm going to make this text larger. Let's see here, text larger. And I don't want super detailed information here. So we'll just say like area name. Oops. Oh my gosh. Okay, yes, area. Area, and then, so say we have the area, and then we have another name right next to it, and this will be the actual area. So the location, area location. And so we have the word area, and then you have the word location. All right, cool. So this can be consistent. And so again, I should have, like I said, I should have probably did that before I made these panels so I wouldn't have to duplicate it. But now I am. So now we have this. So cool. So that maybe that's something we want to do to where we have all that stuff saved. Now, how we're going to do that might take some trickery. So we'll see if we can pull it off. If not, we'll go back to the simple way. So, but that's the beauty of this. We're just trying things out. All right. So what I'm going to do here is make sure that these guys are not stretched. So I'm going to go ahead and select panel, and I'm going to go top left, and top left for this one as well. And then the area location in the text, I don't want it to be in the center. I want it to be based on the top left. And I probably, again, should have done this to all of them. But this is what happens when you are testing these things out. So I'm going to do it because I don't want to go through that. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that these are all the way I want it to be. So top left. Cool. So the reason is because I want it to be able to scale properly. Let's see here. So I'm going to do a duplicate. Cool. So I think it should work now. See, yeah, I didn't want it to move when I do that type of stuff. All right, cool. All right, so we're good there. All right. So now we have that. So we're just kind of thinking a few things through as to what we wanted to do with this. And again, these things are going to change. These are just, I don't want to get too into how it looks. But we do want to kind of set up kind of what we want to do, right? And of course we have our back button here. Okay. All right. So we have 3 buttons here, and these buttons need to do something. Okay. So we need a trigger, right? And so again, we have our portal manager. Now inside here, I want to have another empty just to keep things organized. I mean, it's already kind of organized, but load game manager maybe. So it'll go empty inside here. I'm going to put it right here, and I'm going to rename it load game manager. And then inside this load game manager, I want some triggers, right? So we can do game creator trigger. And this is going to be load 1. And I didn't mean to make that all lowercase like that. Whoops. Load 1. And then this trigger is going to have, of course, an action. And of course, it's going to be a certain trigger. And we know that's going to be our on button click. And so we want to take this button here and we want to put it here. So load 1, this one here. So let's just make sure that that is indeed 1, right? It's not. So we want this to be panel load 1. That's what I want to call it. And this is going to be 2. Load 2. And then this one is going to be 3. Load 3. And I like to put them in the order that they are also in. Wait a minute. cool, perfect. All right, so slow and steady, that's okay. All right, so next thing, that's the button there. So I'm gonna go back to my trigger. I'm gonna grab the button from this one, and we're gonna put it there. And I'm gonna change the name of this button because it should match, right? Cool. All right, so we have the load game there. So now the action that we wanna take when we click this button. So the action is going to be actions. We're going to go X, save and load. And instead of current profile, I think we want to load game, and we're not going to use current profile. We're going to load one, select profile one. Okay. All right. And then that's it. And so that's all we're going to do there. And then so what I'm going to do is duplicate this trigger. I'm going to rename it to load 2. And I'm going to change the button, of course, to load 2. And the action is going to be load 2. All right. And then I'm going to duplicate this one. I know it's repetitive, right? So, but once we get through this and it all works together, trust me, it'll be worth it. But that's why I do these videos step by step, so that each one is just building on the next. And, you know, if I'm moving too fast, let me know. Let me know. All right, cool. And so we have actions there, and then I'm going to hit 3. So we have load 1, 2, and 3. So the idea is when we save to a certain action or a certain profile, we would have it, you will select a certain profile and it would save to that one. But like I said, we'll get to that. Hopefully that will work out. But I just wanted to kind of get something like this set up. And what else do we need? I think that's it for this. I think that will be clear enough for now. I wouldn't worry about the graphics too much. All right. All right, cool. Now, of course, if I hit this button when we're in here, it shouldn't do anything. It may even throw an error because it doesn't have a profile to load. So let's hit play. And it looks like this video is going on for a little while, so I think we're almost done here. So I'm going to go to load settings, works, credits work, quit works, load works, go back to load. See, we have an error. We're getting some errors for sure. Of course, I'm getting you've clicked the button because that's what I've written in the code there. So yeah, so cool. So this is working and we're good to go there. All right, so that shouldn't work. Those particular buttons shouldn't work because we have not set that up just yet. All right, cool. Well, I hope that was useful for you guys. I wanted to keep going, but I think it's getting a little long. So we'll just use this video as basically a way to say we got all the buttons working and set up. Of course, we're going to play with the settings and set up credits and all that stuff later. But our goal now is to get into the next video where we create a base scene with our player or with a cinematic with our player, and then maybe even talk about maybe having a game over scene. So maybe we'll do that in the next video. We'll do a game over scene in the next video, so that will tie in. So when they die, right, as soon as they die after 0 deaths, it'll take us to a game over scene, and then after the game over scene, it should take us back to this main menu, and then we can start the game again or whatever the case. That's the idea. Cool. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you guys in the next video. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. To stay up to date on the latest 3D platforming tutorial, feel free to subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support, you can find me on Patreon, or of course you can hit me up on Discord. I like to talk about whatever project you guys are working on. Of course, thanks for hanging with me. Your support is always appreciated. As always, remember, never give up and keep moving forward. Peace.